Hello, welcome to this practice of CSS. Today we're doing gradient and backgrounds. Linear gradients. 5 questions. Creating linear gradients. CSS3 gradient enables you to display smooth transactions between two or more specified colors. CSS defines two types of gradient, linear and radial. We already read these before. To create a linear gradient, you must define at least two color steps. Two color stops. Color stops are the colors among which you want to render smooth transitions. You can also set a starting point and a direction or an angle, along with the gradient effect. In the example below, the color blue and black are used to create a linear gradient from top to bottom. Okay, div, flow left, with high, margin, color. So color blue, black, used to create a linear gradient from top to bottom. So from most linear, background, most linear, deep sky blue, black. Oh, okay, I see the gradient. Okay. This syntax works in Mozilla most. If you work with different browsers, add the corresponding prefix so that the browser understands the gradient. Yep. Nice result. You can use color names, hex values, RGBs, or HSL colors to define the gradient color. Cool. What type of color values cannot be used within the linear gradient property? We didn't saw that. ColorStops. Colors can be added one after the other, separated by a comma. The browser will then determine each color stop position. In the example below, the linear gradient has multiple color stops and runs from top to bottom. Background. Most linear gradient: blue, yellow, green, pink, white. Okay. So colors are added one after the other, separated by a comma. The browser will then determine each color stop position. In the example below, the linear gradient has multiple color stops and runs from top to bottom. Okay, yeah. Color stop position can be specified for each color. Okay, I see that. Alright, that's cool. The background, and then blue 20%, yellow 30, and green 85. And in addition to percentage, you can also use pixels, EM, and so on to specify the color steps. If you use the same color stops options, if you use the same color stop position for two colors, a sharp line will be created between them. Okay. For two colors, sharp line will be created between them. That makes sense. Add the missing color stop value to create a sharp line between the colors. So all we gotta do here is add an 80%. Green. Oh no, 20%. 20%, because they're at 20%, green 20%, then green 80%, and blue 80%. Yeah. Direction of the gradient. The direction of the gradient can be changed. In the example below, the first gradient starts at left, moving right. The second one runs from bottom to top. Div first left. Width 300 pixels, height 100 pixels, margin, color, background, left, blue, green, white. Okay, and then this first, the second, medium, bottom, blue, green, white. Okay, move from left, starts at left, moving to right. Alright, I see that. Left, right, top and bottom are supported values for gradients direction. You can also use these values combinations to specify directions. Example, bottom right. Okay. You can also use these various combinations to specify direction. Which one of the following directions is not supported for the linear gradient? Center. Angle of the gradient. As an alternative to predefined directions, bottom, top, right, left, bottom, right, etc., you can control the gradient direction by specifying an angle. The angle is specified as an angle extending between a horizontal line and the gradient line. In other words, 0 degrees creates a left to right gradient, while 90 degrees creates a bottom to top gradient. Okay. 100 degrees blue, bottom left. Okay, that's showing that. Bottom left, 100 degrees. Cool. Linear gradient, left, red, yellow. Linear gradient, left, red, yellow. Which one of the following choices is equivalent to the example above? So 0 degree left, 45 degree maybe, 45 degree. If it's 90 degree, just go like that. If it's 0 degree, 45, 0 degrees, I guess. I mean, this is the only option left. Let's look at that real quick though. So 0 creates a left to right. Okay, bottom to top. So 90 degrees more. Sorry, 90 degrees and 0. Okay. Repeating a linear gradient. The repeating linear gradient function is used to repeat a linear gradient. Background. Repeating linear gradient. Blue, green, 20 pixels. Which property is correct for creating a repeating gradient? Repeating linear gradient. Radial gradient. To create a radial gradient, you must define at least 2 color stops. The radial gradient is defined by its center. The CSS syntax of the radio gradient looks like this: background, radio gradient, position, shape, or size, color stops. The first value defines the gradient position. We can use a descriptive keyword such as top, bottom, center, or left, or we can specify, for example, 50%, 50% to set the gradient at the center, or 0%, 0% to set the gradient to the start at the bottom left. The second value defines the shape and the gradient size. There are two arguments to shape gradients. The first is ellipse, which is the default, and the second is the circle. Lastly, the third value defines the color combination. Okay. Select the correct parameters for the radio gradient: position, direction, no direction, no color stops, size, position, direction, position, color stop. Oh my god, dude. Let's give this a good try. Position, color stop, or size, I guess. Position. Setting the shape. The shape parameter defines the shape. If you do not define the shape of the radio gradient, it will take the ellipse value by default. In the example below, we didn't specify the shape of the first radio gradient, but for the second, we set the value to circle. Here's what happened. Okay, this one is not defined. Yellow, blue, green, yellow, blue. Green, okay. Circle, green, yellow, blue. Okay. What is the default value for the shape parameter? Radio gradient position. Essentially, we can use the same method used to specify the location of the background image with the background position CSS property to specify the location of the ellipse center. We specify the horizontal position of the background and optionally the vertical position using either keyword: left, center, right, or top, center, bottom. Length values, percentage values, or some combination of those. In the example below, the first gradient starts from the top left corner. In the second, we set 5% to the green, 15% to the yellow, and 60% to the blue. The first width, color, top left, green, yellow, blue. Green 5%, yellow 50%, blue 60%. Green, yellow, blue. In addition to percentage, we can use pixel or EMS, which shows it is not acceptable value for positioning parameters. Radio. gradient percentage. The color stop. It must be comma. Setting the color stops. As with linear gradient, a color stop is specified with a color plus an optional stop position, which is a length or percentage value. Here's a simple circle gradient with color stop. Okay. Add a circle gradient to produce black and red colors with a color stop according to 20 pixels and 70 pixels. Background gradient circle black according to 70% black and red color with the color 20% and 70%. 20. Background size. 2 questions. The background size property. The background size property adds new functionality to CSS that allow us to specify the size of the background image using either length or percentage. For example, div height width border 1 solid 00 background URL CSS logo not repeat 50% background size 100 pixels 100 pixels. Okay, result. The current version of most popular browsers, including Firefox, Safari, Chrome, Internet Explorer, and Opera, now support background sounds without the need for vendor prefix. Resize the background image to a height of 10 pixels and a width of 200 pixels. What was it? 100, 200, 200, 100. Background size, and it was width and height. Background size values. The two other possible values for background size are the keyword contain and cover. The contain keyword scales the image so that it fits the container. In other words, the image will grow or shrink properly, but the width and height will not exceed the container dimensions. CSS style looks like this. Contain. Background size also accepts the cover keyword. The image is scaled to fit the entire container. However, if that was a different aspect ratio, the image will be cropped. CSS is going to look like this: cover and then contain. All right. Which property scales the image so that both width and height fit inside the container area? Contain. Background clip. The background clip property. The background clip property specifies the painting area of the background. The property takes 3 different values. Border box default. The background is painted to the outside edge of the border. Padding box. The background is painted to the outside edge of the padding content box. The background is painted with the content box. In the example below, the first div with background clip is set to padding box. In the second div is set to content box. Padding box, content box. What was the other one? Border. Which value is not used with the background clip property? Padding, content, border, text box. Background clip with images. Background clip also applies to background images, the CSS. Background clip, content box. Does background clip works with images? Yes. Transparent borders. Transparent borders with background clip. Setting a transparent border on an element will reveal the element's own background under the border. In the example below, we set the background to be transparent using RGBA, but they actually appear solid gray. The CSS result. In the screenshot, the borders use RGBA to be transparent, but they appear solid gray because they are only revealing the solid white background of itself. By setting the background clip property to padding box, the border will be made transparent. Border 20% solid RGBA, clip, padding box, background clip, padding box. Transparency effect is achieved with the background clip padding box. Without it, the background of the box also goes beneath the borders, making it non-transparent. Transparency effect is achieved with the background clip padding box. Without it, background of the box also goes beneath the border, making it non-transparent. Drag and drop from the option below to create a transparent border for a element. Background clip, padding box for the border. Border box for the border. Oh man. Clip, border box. Multiple background images. 2 questions. Multiple backgrounds. The ability to have multiple background images is a new feature in CSS. Multiple background images are specified using a comma-separated list of values for the background images property. The first image will appear on top, the last one on the bottom. The example below will have 2 background images. The first is a CSS logo aligned to the bottom and right. The second is a coding image aligned to the top left corner. CSS div background image URL, background position, right border, right bottom, left top, non-repeat. Right bottom, left top. The last image in the background image list will appear at the top. The last image in the background image list will appear on the bottom. So that means the logo code at the bottom, but logo, the last image code on the bottom. So the last image code would appear on the bottom here. That makes sense. Multiple backgrounds. The position of background images can be changed using the background position property. For example, top, right top, left top. Multiple backgrounds can also be specified using background shorthand property. Background non-repeat. Fill in the blanks to add two background images to the element, with the first positioned at the top the left corner and the other at the top right corner. So this is URL and this is just a comma, and then position with the first position at the top left corner and the other one at the top right corner. Right. Opacity. The opacity property. CSS opacity property provide an excellent means of adding opacity to an element. In the example below, we set different levels of opacity to the same picture, so you can clearly see the difference. Okay. Result. The opacity property values must be number between 0, fully transparent, and 1, fully opaque. Set the element opacity at 30%. 30%, so 0.3. Opacity in Internet Explorer. To have the opacity property work in all versions of IE, use the filter alpha. opacity equals x along with the opacity property. X can take a value from 0 to 100. The value 0 results in a completely transparent element. Example, 100% transparent. Whether the value 100 makes the element completely opaque. 0 transparent. For example, in order to have the code work properly with when the opacity of an image is set at 0.5, it should look like this. Opacity filter alpha opacity equals 50. The alpha filter is a Microsoft only property, not a standard CSS property. Fill in the blank to add support for this model 6. Add a circle radial gradient to produce a red and blue with ColorStop accordingly at 15 pixels and 25 pixels. Border. What should we call it? Gradient. Oh man, what is that called? That's called radial gradient. Radial gradient. Must be 25 and 25 pixels with ColorStop accordingly at 15 pixels and 25 pixels. 15. Red 25 pixels. So add a circle to produce a red and blue with ColorStop accordingly and blue. Only at 15 pixels and 25 pixels. $15. In the background clip property, which value allows for the creation of transparent borders? Border box. Drag and drop from the options below to make the background image of the element 100 by 100 pixel in size. Also set the opacity of the element to 50%. It's URL background. Make the background image of the element on the pixel inside. To make the background image of the element. 0.5 background link, background size, div, opacity, and then opacity filter alpha 50. Alright, and that's done with that section.